Say goodbye to the dial-up days. AI integration surges. A new type of fireproof battery. Amazon making a major move into satellite internet. And Netgear says, hey, it's the first. They're number one, they claim. And best of all, ladies and gentlemen, it's Sam Bushman and Jay Harrison. We keep an eye on tech so you don't have to. Welcome to Tech Watch Radio and TV. If you want to check out what we do, npitechguys.com is where you go for that. That's npitechguys.com. Why? Because we're sponsored by Network Providers Inc.com. When you think strategic IT, when you think help desk, when you think a partner all the way, think outsourced IT and think networkprovidersinc.com. Hi, Jay.
Hey, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, especially if I get some of these batteries. I feel a lot safer with these things.
Yeah, I have seen recently a lot of videos of people. I saw this one couple that came home from vacation. Their house didn't burn down, thankfully, but they had a fan or something, or they were charging like a tool, and the lithium-ion battery caught fire. Now, their house was all sealed up, so the fire never got out of control. It stopped itself, but everything in their house was covered in soot. Like, you could see footprints on the carpet. You know, there was smoke damage everywhere. The fire went out, but, I mean, the house was, you have to gut the whole house and start over. The structure is good, but another one was a lady had
that's where they say, but the bones are good, right? Anyway,
yeah, exactly.
The interesting thing about this, too, is they really started to kind of clamp down on planes, too, Jay. Because people are taking these battery packs on planes and, you know, hey, they all of a sudden spontaneously combust and stuff.
Yeah, they limit you, I think, to 20,000 milliamp, which is not huge. It's about the size of a bigger, those little booster packs that you can plug in USB and stuff on.
Yeah, well, will it charge 3 or 4 phones worth or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Equivalent about.
Yeah, charge your phone.
Usually you think about
5 times.
the number, when you talk about those milliamps or whatever they are, you think 5 takes up one phone charge, right? About?
Yeah. And so you have a 2,000 milliamp is a 20 amp battery, and that's, I think, the top, or maybe it's 2,600. I don't remember. They've adjusted it a little bit.
You got four phones you could charge. You start getting bigger than that, and hey, they don't want it on the plane because it's too much of a fire hazard, a problem. Right?
Yeah. I saw another video of a lady that had a tool, again, another tool. This was a fan, I think it was a Ryobi fan, in her car, and I don't even think she was charging it. It was just there. For some reason, the battery lit, caught fire, burned her car to the ground. I mean, there's nothing but a smoking shell left.
And that's why I'm pretty much against electric vehicles, Jay. I just think when you talk about things moving around and smashing into other things, and I mean, the potential of an accident is very good when you put a lot of electric vehicles. The problem is they're just dangerous. They're dangerous for all kinds of reasons. But I mean, they've even got to the point where one of these cars, electric vehicles, gets caught on fire. They're just like, hey, we're not even going to try to put it out. It's just too hot, too crazy, too gnarly. Just let it run its course, right?
Yeah, you try to save everything else around it and contain the fire. And because in a lithium-ion fire, when that is going catastrophic, there's nothing you can do really to stop it. You can just try to contain it as best as you can and keep other items, structures, cars, whatever from catching. But what's
down
cool
in the melee, yeah.
Anyway,
I bring it up though because I think that it's a very big concern, and I know people are kind of just turning a blind eye to it. But I really think it's a serious problem. Especially think about if you had an underground parking garage with a ton of those vehicles in it, and somebody wanted to do some mass destruction.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't even want to contemplate what would happen if you could get that whole thing, pardon the pun, fired up.
Well, a new type of fireproof battery could dramatically reduce the risk of electric fires in
and
vehicles.
This is exciting to me, Jay. This is exciting tech.
It is. The researchers have developed a sodium-ion battery instead of lithium-ion battery that essentially builds its own internal firewall when temperatures rise. Instead of using flammable liquid components like traditional lithium-ion batteries are, this design uses a special non-flammable liquid that reacts to heat. And when the battery reaches about 300 degrees Fahrenheit, that liquid instantly solidifies, forming a barrier inside of the battery. And that stops the heat from spreading, prevents the chain reaction known as thermal runaway, which is what we're talking about, and which is what leads to fires or explosions in batteries. The thermal runaway has been a major concern with current batteries, where temperatures can spike rapidly and cause dangerous, hard-to-extinguish fires. In testing, these new batteries showed no fire, no smoke, and no explosion, even under extreme conditions like internal short circuits and high heat.
I love it.
Yeah, the bottom line is instead of trying to contain battery fires after they start, this technology aims to stop them before they ever happen. It can be scaled up, and it could make electric vehicles and even large battery systems significantly safer.
And I think that's awesome. Not only could it be scaled up, but it could be scaled down too, to where, hey, you could take maybe a 30 milliamp, backup or device or whatever you want to call these things, portable power or whatever, because if we could get the walls in if we could scale it down, electronics are all about miniaturization, right? If we could do that, then it might be, hey, it's no problem to have your battery on the plane. It's just not a big issue.
Exactly. And I think that would be the case if this became the new standard. You wouldn't have to worry about it so much. And like right now, you can't even put lithium-ion batteries in your what's the opposite of carry-on? The stowaway luggage. That you can't, because if something happens,
checkable luggage.
Checkable, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because you don't want a fire happening under the plane. Nobody's down there. Nobody can get to it or do anything about it.
Yes. Anyway, all I'm saying is I got 2 words about this. Bring it.
Bring it on.
I love it. Want more of it. Amazon's making a major move into space, and I really like this competition because we had the old satellite company, the HughesNet, and whoever they were, and they were faraway satellites. What do they call those, Jay?
Geosynchronous.
Yeah, but they're high satellites. They're far away, 22,000 miles up or whatever.
Yeah. Those you had HughesNet, you had Starband, you had a bunch of different players in there.
And those were the old gens, and they were never very good because they're so far away that the delay is just too long.
Yeah, the round trip
problem,
is like a couple seconds, right?
The jitters are problem. Yeah, and so it was okay. It was better than nothing.
It was better than dial-up.
Then they moved to the new satellite capabilities, Elon Musk and company, Starlink and everything else. But now this is competition on that level. And I think this is going to really improve things, Jay.
Exactly. The Amazon is buying GlobalStar for $11.6 billion. And this is a deal to give Amazon access to GlobalStar's satellite network and their wireless spectrum. Key pieces that
I was going to buy that one. Decided I'd probably bow out.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's a little pricey for me.
$11 billion. Okay.
So they have an internet project. It's called Kuiper, and they're trying to compete with SpaceX's Starlink. And one of their big goals is direct-to-service, allowing smartphones to connect straight to satellites without relying on cell towers, especially in rural areas or during emergencies. Amazon expects to begin rolling out parts of its satellite network as early as 2026, with broader service coming later. The agreement also maintains GlobalStar's existing partnerships, including support for satellite features already in use in some smartphones. And this deal is going to increase the race for global satellite, positions Amazon to where they're a serious competitor to SpaceX. And I think it's probably going to be good for everybody to have competition in that space.
Again, bring it. Love it. I'm just saying, they claim it's going to be faster too, right, Jay?
Yeah, well, it depends on details. They say that it's going to be fast and maybe faster in certain circumstances. Also depends on how much you pay. Starlink has rolled out a bunch of new tiers from $50 all the way up to like $120 with different band levels and service. I mean, they have some. Starlink has some that are $10,000 for airlines and mobile and at sea and worldwide global roaming. And so it's hard to compare apples to apples just in general, but there's going to be competition.
Well,
and
call
I
up
love it.
Elon and just say, Jay, Tech Watch, we need one of those killer $10,000 connections. We'll trade for it. And, you get cranking it up, Jay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anyway, very interesting stuff, and we like it. So great news on batteries, great news on more internet competition everywhere. I like it, whether it's fiber, whether it's wireless, whether it's satellite, whatever. We welcome all this kind of stuff because, look, if you can connect straight to satellite with your phone and not have to buy a separate phone for satellite or whatever, and it can literally bounce between towers and satellites based on where you are, pretty soon you're not going to have near the dead zones. I mean, it's delightful stuff. We're praying for it. It's just exciting. All right, hang on. We keep an eye on tech so you don't have to. You're watching and listening to Tech Watch.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines, build a strong cyber attack response, secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook. or call 385-446-5500 now.
Are you watching what's happening in our country and asking, what can I do? Join the John Birch Society in Salt Lake City, June 6th, for a powerful one-day conference. The day includes a host of respected speakers, 2 meals, and meaningful connections. You'll gain clarity on the issues and walk away with practical steps you can take to your community. Reserve your seat today at jbs.org/SLC26. That's jbs.org/SLC26.
All right, Netgear in the news, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sam Bushman. Jay Harrison's with me. This is kind of an interesting twist. I'm not sure if I like it, Jay.
Yeah, Netgear is saying that they have become the first retail computer router company to receive conditional approval from the FCC as a trusted router provider. You may remember, Sam, recently the FCC said that they designated this is back in March. They said that they called for stronger safety standards and home networking, and they were even kind of not really out banning, but saying we don't trust a lot of stuff, especially from China, and in government and other areas. We're not going to do this. Well, the company Netgear has said that their move aligns with the longstanding focus on security. They're intended to give customers more confidence in the devices powering their internet. The company, which is headquartered in the United States, says it's spent more than 30 years developing consumer networking products, aims to meet higher standards of performance, innovation, and production, and they say they're going to continue working to improve security and help customers upgrade their home network safely. But they say, hey, we want to be in the preferred group or the trusted standard. Maybe that means they're going to start bringing production elsewhere, maybe out of China. I don't know, but we'll see. And it's pretty interesting that they're the first ones to get that certification.
Well, and on one hand, I do support more secure devices. Okay, let's be very clear from a tech point of view.
We always want
support more, safe, whatever you want to call them, standards-driven tech that we know is reliable and safe and secure and all that kind of stuff. I support the general concept. My problem, Jay, is more of a philosophical one, not a political one, but a philosophical one, saying, hey, you know what? I don't know that I want the government to be the decision maker on this. Is it some private group that decides? Or is it government that's going to approve? Because pretty soon, let's say that we want to create the J router.
Right.
And, J router then can't get certification because whatever. And they make it political, or they make it. All I'm telling you is I support guidelines, organizations and bodies in the private sector that can, be the gatekeepers on this kind of stuff. But when you tell me the FCC or when, other government entities kind of decide this, how does that play around the world? And how does that play with, anyway, there's some very big discussions that ought to be around that, Jay. And access to information, the Electronic Frontier Foundation or whatever, some of these other groups, I'm sure they're concerned about it too for the same reasons. There's a real discussion that ought to happen here, Jay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I kind of look at it like sort of like Underwriter's Laboratory. It's a great seal to put on things. It does increase consumer confidence, but I don't think they should be saying, hey, you can only use these or outlawing other ones. You should be able to have not only the ability to roll your own router or to use something open source or to buy from anywhere like China or anywhere else if you want to. I think it's a good idea for the government to say, hey, these are kind of approved. And maybe they even say, hey, within government, we're only going to use these certain routers or these that are approved. But for private sector and for everybody else, it should be looked at kind of like the UL label or these other organizations.
Amen. And what is it called? WRT? Is that one of the Open WRT or whatever?
Yeah, Open WRT is one. And
I bring that up because you can buy a router and then you can basically install or whatever you want to say, replace
the firmware.
Firmware, which really means the operating system for the router, and you get greater control and greater functionality and capabilities, and it's out in the open source world, and it really provides some functionality for inexpensive routers to upgrade to that firmware and then, hey, have some real, what do you want to say, professional or enterprise kind of grade
absolutely
security and capabilities on your router. And see, I don't want that kind of stuff to go away, though, Jay. I think that's brilliant stuff.
I don't, and I actually think that in this instance, the FCC may actually be looking at that as kind of their basis. Because it's open source, it's harder to sneak in weird code. And if they're not, they should be looking at that as the gold standard for where we should be kind of with routers, that project.
I pray they really are. That's something important, but we thought we'd bring that to your attention too, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I don't have any problem with standards and any problem with clear, hey, this is certified, whatever. I just want to decide, be very careful of who's really in charge of deciding the winners and losers, if you will.
Yeah.
That's not a political discussion. It is philosophical, though, to say, hey, we want to make sure that it doesn't get co-opted by people who have other agendas. That's all.
Exactly.
I think it's a fair point. Say goodbye to the dial-up days, Jay. This is a very interesting tidbit because most people think, what are you talking about, Sam?
It isn't so, Sam. I still use dial-up.
Microsoft now is taking Windows activation fully online. Microsoft ended phone activation for Windows December the 3rd, 2025. And they just ended it, requiring all future registrations to be online only. They say it's more secure. They say it's faster, better, cheaper, smarter. Jay, I agree on one hand. I understand what they're saying, but I'm also concerned. I don't like it when these companies have no way to get a human, and especially when it's something as pivotal or functional as, registering my operating system. Because nothing will run if you don't get that done. It'll time out and have a problem. I don't know if you know, but they just released the latest version of Windows, or one of the upgrades or service packs, whatever you want to call them. And I guess people are being locked out of their computers entirely with it, Jay.
I have not heard that, no. But
oh, yeah. What's that technology where they lock down your hard drive? What's that called?
BitLocker.
BitLocker. Okay. They've got a BitLocker problem, and it literally locks people out of their computers.
Oh, my goodness. No.
And so that's what they say. The only way you can solve it is either get the key from somebody, or maybe you have to roll back the update so that you can back out of it. And I'm just telling you, this is
but how
disaster.
do you roll back an update if you can't even access your computer? I mean, BitLocker starts from boot. It's part of the secure boot.
I understand. So that's what all the debate and the problems are, but it's serious. And so I don't mean to be critical of a Microsoft, but I get that you want it to be secure, and if you say the majority of this is online because it works great, then fine. But at some point, folks, when there's I don't know if you want to dare say it's 911, but if I buy a computer and for some reason I'm either locked out of it and or can't get it registered, to me it's a 911 significant situation.
Yeah, and you might need priority support for that, and phone support.
So, but I don't know that they're going to be offering it, Jay. That's what kind of so I think that we, the people, need to push back on this and say, Microsoft, we understand what you're trying to say, but you've got to provide, what do they call it in space? We need a safety hatch, Jay.
Well, no. One thing I don't understand is it seems like now, especially with AI, people should be providing more phone support. It should be easier, and you don't have to pay as many people. At least have something that can weed out the calls and escalate ones that need to be done. I think that they're kind of going in the wrong direction a little bit. Now, I understand for keys and registry. I mean, who does that if you don't have an internet connection? But if you're locked out of your own computer and you can't get online, what do you do?
That is the quintessential problem. And like I say, I've had problems with Microsoft and some of these other companies that have not had great ability for the average Joe to get to them. For a long time, it's been kind of a problem. Now, if you run an IT company or you're involved as a consultant, hey, I can get a hold of Microsoft because we've got corporate, interfaces and lines but the average consumer doesn't have a lot of that kind of stuff. And so I think we need to be really careful here, Jay. Again, I'm not trying to make this political, but I am trying to say we need to make sure that people do have a way forward. Always.
Agreed.
And I think that's critical. But you mentioned AI, and they could use AI to really kind of decrease the cost to carry this out, but yet still provide some of those things. It's true. More and more companies are backing AI, including Microsoft and everybody else. AI integrations surge as companies shift from, they call it experimentation to deployment, Jay, and that's kind of interesting. They say they're moving beyond pilot programs, embedding AI tools directly into daily operations and workflow. I think that's true. But again, I want to give some caution to this. I support AI. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an AI, opposer. I like AI. I think AI has tremendous value. I think it makes good people great. I think it can really take your organization to the next level and decrease costs. And you can tie your AI to automation. I think there's real value there. But I also think that it can expose weaknesses in your company too. If you don't have your processes in order well enough, if you don't have, kind of a layout of who's responsible for what, if you don't have kind of a team to manage it, you can really fall into some pitfalls, Jay. And I really want companies to
Yeah, that's exactly right. There is a lot of issues with AI, and people need to make sure that the AI is working for them and not a burden. It's not troublesome, and it's not owning them. But a lot of companies are moving now from experimentation to deployment because that's where the shift is. So, in addition to that, we've got cybersecurity warnings that are rising as phishing attacks are growing more sophisticated. Experts are reporting an increased use in AI-generated messages and deepfake tactics to deceive users and to bypass safeguards. There is a lot of this going on where, and now it's getting much harder to detect. In the old days, you could see and you could, you get an email and it's poorly written, the English is choppy. That there's a problem and that, this is obviously spam. But now with the advent of AI writing all of these,
AI, ladies and gentlemen, creates a value only when it does several things. Okay? There's value when it improves your return on investment, when it reduces friction in your company, when it strengthens your decision making, when it serves people rather than owns people. That's one of the big points we make on Tech Watch. Because look, I'm all for helping leadership teams move beyond hype and turn AI into measurable results and business value. That's good. The companies that act strategically now, I believe, will basically define the next era in tech. They won't chase trends. They'll build the right foundation. But you know what? You can gain a ton, but you got to do it right. And so people need to kind of settle down on AI a little bit, Jay, and in my opinion, spend their time building use cases. Where would AI really help your business? Where will it decrease confusion? Where will it automate tasks that are repetitive? Where will it decrease errors? And if you lead with clear executive direction and you basically focus on the highest return on investment opportunities, you reduce waste on software spend, you improve your workflow, your speed, your team efficiency, you strengthen security, you strengthen access to things, you reduce operational bottlenecks, you build a practical roadmap. And I support it 1,000%. As you guys can tell, I'm pretty on this. I get it. But people need to step back a little bit and find use cases, because you're going to find that some use cases are incredible. And some use cases you thought that would be incredible are going to fall by the wayside. And it's like, no, that ain't it. No. Hold on. That's not where we want to be. And over time, you're going to refine. And so think of AI as something that you certainly want to embrace, but don't think you got to be the leader on it. You'll just trip over dollars to save pennies. You'll just spend time. I mean, all these companies are still trying to adapt and figure out what they're doing. Now ChatGPT says, we're going to release something just like Claude. We're going to get into this, super ability to stop software from having bugs in it and everything. I think that's great, but I think they're going overboard, because if you're not careful, the bug weeding out software will be turned around as a bug creating, backdoor creating, security crisis tool if you're not very careful. In the hands of good people, it can do wonderful things. In the hands of bad people, it'll do horrible things. So, folks, we need to slow down a little bit. We need to let society and governments and everybody kind of put guardrails on this stuff. And you need to implement it, but you need to do it by use case, a little bit at a time. And I'm telling you, you want to be what do they call that? The tortoise and the hare, Jay?
Right.
You want to be the tortoise in this thing. By all means, go after it. But do it in a steady, conservative, meaningful way. I hope to be your IT consultant, ladies and gentlemen. NPITechGuys.com is our website. NetworkProvidersInc.com is the website if you want to partner in IT. I'm Sam, he's Jay. We keep an eye on tech so you don't have to. Hold on, we've got more on Tech Watch.